Hi, so welcome to another episode of the Random Talk, and I am joined today by Martin Schlautmann, one of PSI's product managers, and that's a product manager of
Liquid production, decarbonization, and energy services.
Fantastic. Welcome to this episode,
hi,
Martin.
I'm happy to be here.
I'm glad. So, in an earlier episode, we spoke to Jan, who talked about scrap tracking, which is under, the decarbonization services offered by within PSImetals. And so today we would love to talk about what he mentioned in there, which was the tracking of the product carbon footprint. Could you tell us about PSImetals product carbon footprint tracking?
Yeah. So what Jan talked about is the, let's say, holistic scrap management, which is also the vision of PSImetals to support that. One part is really to have also all information about scrap parts in the production lines, to bring it back to the melt shop in order to have all the informations for the next heat regarding these scrap properties. And one of these scrap properties will be, in our approach, now also the product carbon footprint, because in our approach, we say if some piece is cut from a material, it has its own backpack of the PCF.
Of course.
And then we assign this backpack to the next heat. So that is already one part of the general rules which we have, and the PCF in general is in the PSImetals approach following from the raw material input preparation via the different production steps to the final shipment to the customer, all the emissions which take place during that production history from the raw material consumptions, from energy consumptions, and so on, and then at the end to have this PCF data available for a single piece of material.
Okay, so that's great that we're doing that, but let's go to the why. Why is it important for steel producers in North America, Latin America, Europe, Middle East, Asia? Why is it important for them to have something such as PSImetals product carbon footprint tracking?
Yeah, this is a story of climate change and the Paris COP21 agreement, where we agreed to be net zero in 2045, 2050, 2060. That depends on the area where the companies are producing.
Yes.
But at the end, all these companies are on the way to decarbonize their production. And in Europe especially, there are already very sophisticated regulations like the emission trading system, like the carbon border adjustment mechanism to prevent carbon leakage over the European border, which will be activated next year. And so also from the other parts of the world, if they want to export something to the European Union, they have to document what is the PCF, the product carbon footprint of their product. And that's why we have developed this approach, not only based on the corporate emissions, but really broke that down to the single piece of product, that each supplier has information about each single product. And that is also asked by the customers of our customers. So especially the automotive industry is very interested. They are a step forward in their decarbonization journey, let's say. They already now want to tell their customers, this car has this PCF. And then they have to know the PCF from the coils or bars which they have bought in order to produce that car. So that is the reason. The regulations in Europe, but also in America and also in Asia, there are first regulations. I'm sure they will increase these regulations according to already established standards in order to have a similar, let's say, framework like the European Union, and that will be dominant for the market in the future.
Okay. In regards like tracking and calculating, what accounting frameworks are currently in use in the PSImetals product carbon footprint tracking?
Yeah. So in general, I already told there are the two general types of corporate related tracking and product related product carbon footprint. For the first, there is regulations from ISO 14064, and for the product carbon footprint, the main regulation is the 14067, and other regulations also related to the famous greenhouse gas protocols for corporate and also for product lifecycle reporting and accounting. They are established meanwhile, and these, let's say, this greenhouse gas protocol defines the general scopes where we are talking about scope 1, the direct emissions from the organization process itself, and there are indirect emissions from the purchased energy from external suppliers, and other indirect emissions from raw material purchased from external suppliers that are the upstream scope 3 emissions. Downstream scope 3 emissions are for PSImetals not so relevant because we only track from the cradle, from the raw material input to the gate where we ship it to the customer. So that is the framework where we are calculating. And according to these mentioned regulations, we do that. And we do it in real time. We really, for each production step which takes place in a production line, we collect all these influencing data and calculate different KPIs for the product carbon footprint.
Definitely. Thank you for those facts. And what are the important sort of like functions, features, the benefits that a customer has from, obviously, apart from meeting these regulations?
Yeah.
What were the important like features, functions, and the benefits that a customer has from using PSImetals product carbon footprint tracking?
Yeah, as I said, we have implemented that in our production management system. It is part of our quality management. So there we have established functionalities like the quality process snapshot, very easy to configure regarding characteristics, also characteristics needed for product carbon footprint tracking and for calculation of so-called quality indicators. And the product carbon footprint is another quality indicator. So in our view, product carbon footprint is like other quality data. We track it through the production. We react on deviations from some tolerances. And at the end, we also can give this information to a product pass or certificate for the final product. And that's the first benefit. The product management system, PSImetals, has all the required information already on board, more or less. And then these information can also be evaluated. If you have tracked all these product carbon footprint data, you can also make predictions for next products regarding their PCF, and you can steer the production. You can use it for scheduling and planning if you know which product along which production line has which PCF. And that is another quality data which then can be controlled already in the planning and scheduling phase. And as I said, especially in the European Union, there are meanwhile established so-called green lead markets. And if you want to participate, you have to document transparently and you have to provide a PCF validated calculation about your PCF data for your products. And then this opens the door to these new green lead markets. So that are, from my point of view, the main benefits a customer has if he follows our approach.
Yeah, fantastic. There we have it. Martin Schlautmann, the man with the facts and the numbers. So, which is really impressive. And thank you for definitely educating us on the importance of, using this functionality, which is provided by PSImetals. So thank you for joining us on this episode today, Martin. Yeah, so there we have it. Martin Schlautmann talking about one of the functions, one of the solutions we have under our decarbonization services. So join us in another episode with Martin where we will discuss the charge and alloy optimization, another fantastic solution we have under our decarbonization services. Thank you for joining us.